Hello Year 8, it's Dr. Meneghetti here. I'm uploading this video or doing this video today because I've had some problems with getting everybody all in the same place on the OneNote or all on Teams, and it doesn't seem to be working terribly well. So I'm going to do this video in the hope that it will help you know what you should be doing for the rest of the week and next week. So as you know, our recent unit has been fire, and I'm hoping that all of you, or nearly all of you, have finished your assessment of Criterion B from last term. If you remember, the Criterion B assessment was when you designed your investigation into an aspect of the fire triangle. For most of you, what you did was investigate how volume of air affected the burn time of a candle. If you were trying to do it in a group and you couldn't get hold of your partner, then what I'd like you to do is to simply fill in the template on your own. But as long as everybody does it, then I don't mind how you do it. I want to make sure that you put the names of anyone in your group on the top of your submission of your report so that I know who has done it and who hasn't, and make sure that that's in to me by the end of the week if it's not in already. Moving on, I've got one more assessment task to do from the fire unit. I'm just going to see if I can find it here. And it's to do with chemical fire retardants. If you can see the page in front of me, I'll just move it down. This document is on the OneNote. What it is, it gives you a little bit of information about what chemical fire retardants are and how they're used. There are some videos embedded that you can watch that will help you understand it too. But in general, what you need to know is that chemical fire retardants are substances that are added to the material, the fabric that a sofa or another item is made out of, or perhaps they're added to the foam, the squashy bit that you sit on. But they're chemicals that are added to prevent those materials from burning as fast or as effectively as they would do without. So that's what chemical fire retardants are. And there have been some people who have started to get worried about chemical fire retardants because they say that having these chemicals added to the furniture means that some of them can leak out into the environment even when there isn't a fire. For example, if you play around, jump around on a sofa, or when you're a little kid, maybe you chew the furniture. If you've got a baby in the house, you might know that they sometimes do that. That there's a worry that sometimes people might get sick from the chemicals that are in the furniture. And also there's a suggestion that when firefighters come to fight those fires, that they may get exposed to dangerous chemicals too. So these are problems that people have identified, but at the same time there is a real need to do something to make furniture less flammable and less dangerous in houses. What I'm going to ask you to do is to read this article. It's not incredibly long, but have a look at it as I scroll through it. It talks about how chemical fire retardants work. There are links to some videos. There's a discussion of some of the problems. And then there's this bit about scientists making decisions about how materials are used. Okay, so the scientists are the ones that design the materials. They add the chemicals, they find out what the chemicals can do, and they add them to furniture to help. They're also the people that will do the assessments to find out if there are any gases leaking, and medical scientists will check out whether these are dangerous, and so on and so on. But the scientist's job is kind of finished when they've done that. It's somebody else's job to decide whether or not these materials should be used or not. So the New Zealand government at the moment doesn't make it a requirement. They don't make it compulsory for all furniture in New Zealand to be treated with fire retardants, but some countries do. And it's something that it's up to the government basically to decide. So how do they make those decisions? Obviously, they need to have some scientific knowledge. But then they also have to look at the benefits and the costs and possible harm of using fire retardant materials or not using them, and then weigh those benefits and harms up and come to a decision. And one of the ways that people do that is by looking at systems of ethical thinking. So what I'm going to get you to do is to learn a little bit about ethical decision making, ways of making ethical choices, because everybody's it has a right to have a different view, but it's helpful if you know where your views come from, and it's helpful if you understand how they fit into different types of approaches. So I have another document for you, which I will see if I can find for you and bring up. Okay. If you can see in front of me, there is this document also on the OneNote, which is about common ethical approaches. Now, some of these words are quite big. It talks about consequentialism and so forth, and you may not be used to those words, but the ideas inside are not that difficult to understand. So what I'd like you to do is to read this document on ethical approaches, and then follow the instructions in the document, it's just 1 page long, to help you to work out your own opinion when it comes to whether or not fire retardants should be compulsory or not. Ideally, I'd like you to involve an adult or an older sibling in the discussion, because that will mean you'll get to see where their ethical opinions come from too. And you may feel the same as them, or you may have your own view. There isn't a right or wrong answer to this question. It's something that you could be right whichever way you decide to go, as long as the only way I'm going to say I'm going to give you high marks if you can justify your reasons for taking a certain position. Okay? Because everyone develops their system of ethics in a slightly different way. So if you can explain to me how your decision relates to the harm and the benefit to different people, then I'm going to give you a high mark for that. Okay. The third document that you'll see on the OneNote is the actual task. I'm just trying to find it now. And it will look like this. This is the actual explanation of the task. And I hope it's fairly self-explanatory, but my intention with putting all of those 3 documents on the OneNote is that you can have a look at them over the course of the week, discuss them with your parents and your friends, and then get to work on your research for this assessment. So your report then will include 2 main sections. It'll have an introduction, and it will talk about how fire retardants work. That's the science part. How do they work, and are there problems with them? And the second part of your report is going to be a discussion of the ethics of making fire retardants compulsory. So 2 main parts, like a usual criterion D. The first part is all about the science, and the second part is about the implications of the science. What do we do with that knowledge? Should we use it or should we not use it? And explaining why. So it is pretty self-explanatory. I'm expecting your report to be about 2 to 3 pages long, and it will include a reference list at the end. And I've made some remarks here explaining about how you might do references. Okay, and I've got the marking criteria at the end for you to have a look at. Okay, so that's your task over the next 2 weeks, well, till the end of next week anyway, is to work on this report, assuming that you've finished your criterion B investigation. Then working on this one is what I would like to see you do and we'll see how we go. I'm not expecting too much, honestly, because I know that it's very, very hard to work this way. It's certainly difficult for me, and I'm sure it's really hard for you too. So I just want you to do your best and to show me that you're capable of doing some independent research and reading some material online and making some sense of it. Okay, so we'll talk again soon, and all the very best. I'm signing off now. Cheerio.